back it up against the wall. You heard him. Back it up. Don't make us put some pain on you.
Pain? How dare you use that word?
He's got pins in his head.
What you think of as pain is only a shadow. Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you. Gentlemen, I am pain.
Our second pick from the list is Puppet Combo, an American independent video game development studio based in Brooklyn. It was originally founded in 2012 as Pig Farmer Games by Ben Kokoza, a one-man game developer that specializes in the specific genre of mixing PS1 and PS2 survival horror, like games like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, with a low-budget 70s and 80s slasher film aesthetics. I've heard about this independent company for quite some time now, since 2020 and 2021, mainly due to Murder House and, of course, Bloodwash. I heard recently that they're going to release a new game on October 17th called The Sniper Killer. And what better way to do so by simply reviewing and taking a look at Puppet Combo's video games in its own library.
That sounds like a good shindig idea. Let us start from the beginning. That made the company for what it is, shall we?
As stated from the previous video, this is not suited for children. These games bear resemblance of a slasher film flick, exploitations and so forth that is not suited.
So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now is your chance to, well, we've warned you.
Our first game on the chopping block is Babysitter Bloodbath, a 2013 survival horror game that kickstarted most of the other Puppet Combo games. Most notably, of course, its tank controls. What I find it interesting was that the game was originally an adaptation of the 1978 John Carpenter classic, Halloween. But because of the legal issues, a few names and models had to be changed. Most notably, the villain's name to Nicholas Burr. He's like your stand-in for Michael Myers in this game. The odd thing about him is that he has two different backstories, one from the game and one from the novel. According to the game manual, Nicholas Burr was a serial home invader with a long rap sheet of hot prowling burglary and an uncharacteristic violence against occupants, as well as an extensive record for mental illness, dating back as early as age 16. Declared criminally insane, he was locked away in the sanatorium for a permanent stay. But in the 2020 novelization, just to summarize, Nicholas Burr was a blue-collar worker who was married and had 2 children. Before 1960, 22 years prior to the novel's plot, living in River Park outside of Monroe, in the very same suburban home the Johnsons now reside in. Just to clear things up, Burr was noted by neither his family nor authorities to have previous signs of mental abnormality. That is until after returning from his shift at the local factory, he slashed the throat of his wife, Pamela, stabbed his young daughter, Ginny, to death, and finally cannibalizing his infant son. Which I gotta say is very dark in the novelization versus the game itself in the manual.
Hi, Rook here, just to address here and there that we forgot after the recording. After reading about Nicholas Burr's past in 1960s, he looks as though he was living the American dream with his family. That is until he annihilated his family after coming home from work, is when it made us think of the Griswolds file. Which it can't be coincidence, since the game came out in 2013, 5 years prior, before 2018 of August.
Since we already established, you're running around just defending yourself from Burr, but also getting parts for the car that you need to drive out of here. Much similar to Murder House, the only major difference is that you're collecting 4 Easter eggs with tarot cards in order to make an exit appear, while being stalked by the killer inside the house. In fact, it has the exact same formula but with different themes. After running around, you find yourself a revolver, a bolt cutter, and of course a gas can in order to fill up the car. So after filling up the car, Nicholas Burke walks in, and this is the final confrontation. And this goes on for like about a minute until he drops to his knees. Billy comes in and asks if the boogeyman is dead. Sarah said that she killed him, and both of them escaped. For a game this short, it takes about a half hour just to complete it. And as for the ending bit, it's much of the same as like Halloween 3D. Only this one acted like it needed a sequel, which unfortunately there isn't one. Although technically there are 2 prequels that are not even completed. Such titles like Sanatorium Massacre and A Monster with Eyes of Ice, where you get to play as Nicholas Burr before the events of Babysitter Bloodbath. Which I'm not gonna lie, I am morbidly curious. I'm just curious if it's gonna follow just like the one in the instruction manual, or the novelization just moments prior before Babysitter Bloodbath. Overall, it's a good game that you can find it on itch.io, as well as Patreon just to support the creator.
Second game on the list is Feed Me Billy, a 2018 horror game where you play as the killer named Billy, whose role it is to kill innocent victims, taking and loading their bodies, and dump them in a flesh-eating hole that's in the closet. It's pretty straightforward, and short by the look of things. The story starts off with B getting up from bed. We can see for a few seconds. There's light emanating from the closet before picking up the phone. The phone call is from the Church of the Father's Vision, or CFV for short. The Church of the Father's Vision is a religious cult that featured in several public combo games. Most notably Stay Out of the House. They're connected to put it short. According to its history, it has its roots in secret government-funded research agency in Cedarville, Oklahoma. The facility was dedicated to studying potential useful applications of radiation, following several ill-fated experiences with nuclear power in the years prior, collaborating with other federal organizations, such as the National Radiation Control Administration and the National Nuclear Security and Science Administration. For this purpose, the partially irradiated countryside was a perfect testing grounds, since the affected locals served as a reliable starting point in examining the effects of limited radioactive exposure on humans. And, well, this is pretty long backstory to eat up the minutes we have. But to summarize, this has been going on since 1966 under the backdrop of the Cold War until 1980 and 81 is when the Church of the Father's Vision was founded. Insert MK Ultra for brainwashing purposes here.
Yeah, there's metric butt ton of information regarding about the cult itself and their religious purposes. Much in the similarities to the book of The Call of Cthulhu.
We see Billy driving up the road and sees a potential victim at a gas station, talking on a payphone. He parks his truck in the woods, walks back to the gas station, and shoots the victim. At this point, this is a murder simulator that most people need to understand before playing this. After loading the body and bringing in, we see a flesh hallway in the closet from earlier, and go inside. There we see a flesh-like hole with teeth that talks and says, "Feed me, Billy." Not sure what the hell that thing is, but it demands human offering in order for it to be satisfied. After dropping the body into the hole, the day ends. Rinse and repeat. On day 2, the closet turned normal like nothing happened. That is until you receive a letter under the door from someone who knows what you've been doing. I just wish there's more story about who it is that saw him killing people like this is a game among us for shits and giggles. Yet no answer. Murder, murder, murder. We get to see hallucinations of Billy here and there before dumping the body in, and going for another murder spree the next day. After that, the game ends with a goat expelling from the hole. This here geared to being what the fuck in video game history.
Last game on the list is Stay Out of the House. Much like Feed Me Billy, the controls are the same, only this time the roles are reversed. Instead of playing as the killer, you're playing as the survivor from 2 different stories, Night Shift and Stay Out of the House. I forgot to include Non-Massacre cause that too also shared the same controls. The same mechanics of running and hiding from the killer, and collecting items in order to progress throughout the game, as well as the multiple endings, which I'm not gonna spoil it. To summarize, both of them are similar to each other. The big difference is that in Nun Massacre, it only has the nun being as the only antagonist in that game, versus Stay of the House only has 3 enemies, including the Butcher as the main antagonist. According to the wiki, he's referred to as the Night Shift Abductor. Here's a bit of a funny story. When I first saw this, either I heard it or just read it that he was referred to as the Hoodset Killer. But looking at the character more carefully and also reading the quickie even carefully as well, he just abducts them and just kills them in his house. Like, he doesn't kill them out in public unlike Billy does. I don't exactly know why I think that, I just think it's just stupid and fucking hilarious at the same time. So let's talk about the chapters. Chapter 1 is pretty much just a gas station simulator, where you have to sweep up the floors, restocking inventory, and helping out customers. Let me be brutally honest here that as an employee, I actually of course work outside, pushing carts, and helping out customers with carryouts, especially electronics whenever they're ordering a big TV. Just a short insider knowledge of what I know. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to go on about other than just playing the arcade, sweeping up the floor, taking inventory, and helping out customers. It takes a complete nosedive when a mysterious white van laps around the gas station. Okay, right off the bat, this is a complete red flag. When we were taught this, we have to take a mental note whenever we see a certain red flag like this, such as the surroundings, the vehicles, and the unusual characters. Let's just take a moment and understand that this is in the middle of nowhere, and it's late at night, which is pretty damn suspicious. Sitting behind the counter makes me feel like I'm playing Papers, Please. Even interacting with the customer makes it feel like it. I don't know why, but it's just strange really. And there's that same van again, which makes it even too damn suspicious. After playing the arcade, we get this weirdo that barged in. This guy kinda reminds me of Matt Stone, one of the creators of South Park, back when he used to have a Jafro and glasses. I don't exactly know why, but it doesn't seem like this is intentional. Hi, it's me again, just to point out something that I forgot while recording this. Aside from the stranger looking like Matt Stone from South Park, he asks a question if you're working alone at night, which is kinda odd. A little tidbit that I forgot while recording this, so back to the video. What's so fucking weird about this guy is that he roams around the entire store, stops, and looks at you. This is already a second red flag, right next to the mysterious white van that circles around from earlier. After that weird shit, he pays for the drink and leaves. Let's just say he doesn't come back. After that weird ass interaction, we hear a door open from the back. This is the third red flag and I'm already of course at this point of booking it. But alas, this is a horror trope. Like 90% of horror movies, we go investigate and... See what I tell ya? 3 strikes and you're out. Those 2 men are in cahoots. Chapter 2 starts us off with a brief Skyrim moment by introducing 2 new characters, Roxanne and Brandon. They've been driving through rural Oklahoma during a long road trip. When Brandon stops the car for a bathroom break and doesn't return, it prompted Roxanne to go investigate. We check around the bathrooms, which he doesn't seem to be anywhere until we found his license. This already is just a first red flag for her. After putting down the license where we found it, we see silos in the distance. I'm just getting this Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibe, with all its atmosphere and the cornfield, all that horror trope. Looking at the state of things, it's abandoned. It's as if I'm in a George A. Romero's Day of the Dead feel. This gets cut short until we see a seemingly abandoned house in a cornfield. Inside, her search for Brandon is cut short when she finds herself locked in, with a seemingly dead woman in a wheelchair emerging from the upper floor shortly after, letting out a horrid scream before a masked man barges in and knocks Roxanne out. Thus ends Chapter 2. I'm literally halfway through this story in this entire game, so let me just quickly summarize it. You wake up in this flimsy wire mesh cage that you could just easily tear it down, which is piss poor construction work if you ask me, but moving on. And now you have the free roam of the house to find necessary tools to escape, uncovering its hidden history and still buried secrets through notes along the way, all the while avoiding being caught by the butcher who is hiding something horrific underneath his house. This is literally like Nun Massacre, only this one is 10 times more different. With Nun Massacre, it only has like one playing field, which is the boarding school, while Stay Out of the House only has like 2 playing fields. One is the entire house and the property, and the other is the bunker, being the final chapter of Chapter 4. There's also a safe room in the vents, which the butcher doesn't even crawl into the vents because of how he's built. It also acts as a safe state once finding a videotape and the TV. After crawling in the vents, we finally get to see what the butcher is up to. By the looks of things, he's chopping up meat and severed body parts. In the notes, it mentions about a tunnel that leads up into the bunker being as the final chapter. But it also gives a clue about the killer using the radar equipment. You're literally just exploring the house, gathering tools, and uncovering clues and solving puzzles while avoiding the butcher that's roaming around the house. The house literally has that eeriness to it, like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, ranging from body parts and skins as furnishings. There's a shit ton of barrels with a word of drinking water on the side of it, made me to believe that the butcher is just a doomsday prepper by the looks of things. The letters and notes belong to the victims that didn't survive from the butcher's abduction and slaughter, leaving clues and hints on certain items, including the disturbing letters from the butcher, which is just unsettling. I honestly say that it adds the attentions of either you getting out of the house alive or not. Puppet Combo actually did perfectly well by adding the flavor and its replay value. Alright, enough glazing on this game. After collecting items and dodging searchlights and doctor suits, rescuing the survivors, we head to the basement and put in the code for the basement unlocks in the extended cellar area. And now we're in the bunker, a massive underground complex to explore and the option to put an end to the madness once and for all. In fact, the bunker itself belongs to the Church of the Father's Vision, the very same group that Billy was recruited, even the butcher included. It not only housed all animals that are actually in the bunker, but it also housed a very large entity known as the bunker creature. According to the description, it appears to be a large, red, heart-shaped monstrosity with spiky teeth, 2 spike-like arms, and tentacles coming out of its mouth. It resides in the bunker underneath the butcher's home, more specifically in a room made of flesh with a number of pulsating organic egg sacs sprouting in the ground and on the wall. It feeds on human flesh. The entity is worshipped by the cult and by the butcher who brings it human flesh. Which it could explain why these people had gone missing due to the butcher just abducting them, cutting up their flesh, and offering it to the bunker creature. After exploring the facility and finding the keys, you started a reactor meltdown. This here we have a final showdown with the butcher as we make our escape. This game is incredibly long than any other Puppet Combo games I have ever seen. And it only takes about like 2, maybe 3 hours just to beat it, unless of course you're just one of those just trying to find the 5 endings. Overall, it's a good game to download on consoles as well as on iOS.
In the midnight heavens burning through ethereal deeps afar, once I watched with restless yearning an alluring Orient star, every eye aloft returning, gleaming nigh the Arctic car. Mystic waves of beauty blended with the gorgeous golden rays, fantasies of bliss descended in a mirrored Elysian haze, and in lyre-born chords extended harmonies of Lydian lays. There, thought I, lie scenes of pleasure, where the free and blessed dwell, and each moment bears a treasure freighted with a lotus spell, and there floats a liquid measure from the lute of Israfel. There, I told myself, were shining worlds of happiness unknown, peace and innocence entwining by the crowned virtue's throne. Men of light, their thoughts refining purer, fairer than our own. Thus I must, when o'er the vision crept a red delirious change, hope dissolving to derision, beauty to distortion strange, hymnic chords in weird collision, spectral sights in endless range, crimson burned the star of sadness, as behind the beams I peered. All was woe that seemed but gladness, ere my gaze with truth was seared. Cacodemons mirrored with madness, through the fevered flickering leered. Now I know the fiendish fable that the golden glitter bore. Now I shun the spangled sable that I watched and loved before. But the horror, set and stable, haunts my soul forevermore.